Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Home Service Heartbeat Podcast. I'm Joe Crisara, and today I'm excited to be joined by Troy Daland, the owner of Air Zero, a veteran-owned business who emphasizes the values of discipline, integrity, and a relentless pursuit of quality in every project. Everything they do centers on building lasting relationships with their clients through transparency and dependability. Troy, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm thrilled to have you here on the show.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. And thanks to Service MVPs for what you guys do in this industry. I know you've been in it for a while, and believe me, everybody's watching. So thanks, Joe.
Well, thank you so much. I definitely appreciate you doing that and supporting us. So definitely the care, respect, and support we get from contractors, it means a lot. So Troy, let's just start by talking. This is about you, okay? So this time we're going to feature you instead of me. So can you share how you got started in the service industry and what led you to your leadership role as the owner of Air Zero?
Yeah, sure. So you explained that I'm a veteran. So in 2019, I retired from the military. And during that period of, I think it was the last 6 months of that time, the Department of Defense has a program called DoD Skills Bridge. It allowed me to go ahead and work in the civilian world in really whatever capacity I was looking for, as long as the company was willing to bring me on. So I ended up getting into mergers and acquisitions and looking at PE, private equity, because that was a route that I wanted to go. Once I get into that arena, I found out pretty quickly the things that they're looking for people in mergers and acquisitions or even the private equity is for individuals that have some sense of what leadership looks like, right? Coming out of the military, I spent 24 years in the Air Force. So I came across leadership quite a bit. I came across good leadership. I came across bad leadership. Or I shouldn't say bad. I should say there's no bad leadership out there because it's all very informative in one fashion or another. So those companies, the PE firm, the merger and acquisition firm, wanted me to go take a look at companies and see how their people were brought together, either through culture or how the leadership was acting or the management or executive. So I found that to be one of the more fun parts of dealing with those companies. And you get to develop a pretty good relationship with those folks. In fact, one of my last companies that I went in as fractional leadership for was a hand sanitizer company 6 months before COVID. So you can imagine what happened after that 6 months and COVID hit. It was fast and furious. So I learned a lot through that. And I would say most military guys coming out, they have a sense of how leadership works, but a lot of times the business side is just, it's a little outside their reach. So I was fortunate enough to have a lot of mentors. And through that process, I had one of my mentors say, hey, look at all these verticals within private equity, what they're looking at, and home services came. I like the home service industry. It's a trade industry. The military is a trade industry. So I found quickly after I had found and purchased Air Zero that there were so many similarities between what we do in the home service industry and what we do in the military. We're training. Primarily what we do is we train in the military to become effective enough to go out in the field and do whatever our job is. It's no different in the home service industry.
Now, that's great. But go ahead.
Now, what I was getting to was with the similarities between both the military and the home service industry. For us at Air Zero, we look to, assess, select, and then train our individuals. So during the process of selecting somebody, right, they come in through talent acquisition channels. We get a chance to take a look at them, usually for 90 days or so. During that time, we assess and then, we select and train. That's been pretty effective because what we're looking for is attitude and aptitude. If they don't have the skills, I mean, look, that the military trains individuals in pretty short order. For instance, airborne school is like 3 weeks long. So from the time you don't know about jumping out of a plane to the fact that you're out jumping out of a plane in darkness, that's a 3-week time frame. I'm pretty sure that we can get an individual from not knowing a whole lot about HVAC to doing a maintenance in pretty short order, right? With the
Okay.
right type of training plan and so on and so forth. But I would say, Joe, and you know this to be true, it goes far beyond just being technically savvy. I would say that's probably a third of what a customer would expect when you arrive at their home. They got to have those soft skills, right? They have to be able to communicate to those customers, right? Because they're trying to build value the whole time. And since we are, just like you mentioned at the beginning, since we're a company that, we thrive on the integrity and transparency of what we do. Like everything's an open book, right? You want a quote, go online, check out AirZero, right? And get a quote for your system there. We don't hide any of that stuff. We feel that the service that we're providing is what the consumer wants. So I love this industry. Even though I've been in it a short amount of time, you can imagine, Joe, from going from not knowing anything about HVAC to what we're doing right now. I'm running a business and having to know a lot about HVAC because we're still a relatively small company, but we act like a big company.
Well, I think that's great. And then since you start this company and made that transition into the leadership of a service business. I mean, you were in the service industry when you were in the military, and now the service industry in your civilian life. Just like in the military, there's challenges that you face. What is the biggest challenge that you had to face at AirZero, and how did you end up overcoming it? What's some of the challenges you can share with us?
Joe, I think you know what I'm going to say, right? People can be the challenge, right?
You mean
Right?
the air
People are the
conditioning
challenge.
works? The air conditioning is predictable. What about the people, Troy? How's
Yeah,
that?
completely unpredictable, right? Just talking with the customer in a way that builds value, right? They can go in and fix a machine. You know this, right? They
Hmm.
can fix a machine really quick, but you're also doing a disservice to the customer when you just go in and fix it. There's so many other things that probably should be addressed because we focus on, there's 3 pillars, right? We want to make sure that your home is safe, right? We want to make sure it's energy efficient, and we want to make sure that it's healthy for the occupants. Those are the 3 things that we focus on. And if we do that and explain to the customer in a way, we can be really a partner with them in their home. Now, Florida, where we're located at, you're dealing with your indoor air quality. You're dealing with trying to dehumidify a home because it keeps the home healthy, keeps the occupants healthy. And you're inside here in Florida during the summertime, probably 80% of the time,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
You run from one air conditioned space to the next in your vehicle, and then you run into it again. So we try and be that partner that homeowners want, right? When they have an issue with their system, they don't want to wait, especially down here, right? Now we're talking, and we have a population of folks down here that, well, they can't wait. We got to be able there to react. So when you talk about service to the military, right? So I was very fortunate in my career, right? I was able to serve the nation, and now I get to take that and serve the community. So we lean heavy into that. So whenever there's a need, we can go in there and solve those.
Hmm.
So
Well, Troy, tell us about some of the transparent service strategies that you do for your community, and how did you know the strategy was working? When did you first realize that those key service strategies were working? Like, what do you say to your people? Hey, guys, I don't know what's going to happen today, but I know here's what we're going to do to serve the customers of Florida, of Largo, and I think it's Pinellas County there,
right,
and
Tampa Bay area.
Tampa. Yeah. So what are you going to do to, here's what we're going to do today in the strategy we're going to run. And when did you first realize it was starting to work?
Well, it was pretty quick to see that when I first bought the company. I mean, just the customer base, when you interact with folks, I mean, we ask them, like, what are some of the challenges you found in the past? Where can we serve you better? And most folks will tell you, right? They'll tell you that, well, it's nice if I call the office and when I'm asking for a price, they're able to get it. Now, all situations aren't the same. So a lot of times we'll give a range, but if people are asking for pricing on equipment, we'll direct them towards, our website so they can look on their own. They can see what's out there as far as what we provide. Um, our technicians out in the field, they sit there with the customer and go through each of the different parts of it. Like this, okay, so you have a blower wheel that's dirty. I'm not just telling you, here's the pictures, right?
Transparency
We'll have
again.
yep, absolutely. We'll even have our technicians ask, is it okay if I text you? Because a lot of customers aren't getting up. So we'll text them or we'll send them a little video about it. So
Mm.
that adds to that transparency that the customers like. And it's been overwhelming from the customers how much they enjoy that aspect of it. Some of them may go, okay, I get it, right? Here's the indoor air conditioning, right? The handler unit or the condenser. You can just go ahead and fix it and I'll move on. So when they start getting that vibe from the customer, right, they spend the time working on that machine, but when they come back at the end, right, where they're doing their observations and recommendations with them, their findings and recommendations, they continue to build that rapport with them.
Mm-hmm. And how about the investment in time and the relationships that you allow technicians with your clients? I mean, is there, because I think there's companies that are informed and they allow that time, and there's people who are uninformed. It's like, hey, you got to get out of there in 45 minutes or whatever. Tell us about that a little bit.
Right. So at the end of the day, it balances out. Like we try and keep the guys 3 to 4 calls a day. Right. That allows them the time that they need to go ahead and talk to the customer in a way that adds value to them. Some days run a little bit longer because, every call ends up being something that we have to explain to the customer. For us, in order to make any money, obviously there's time constraints that are out there, but that's not do or die. Like if you have a customer that needs to be talked through different processes within the maintenance or even the service, they're going to do that. Right? They're not going to be like, oh, hour and 15, we're out of here. That's not how that works. All right.
So, what qualities do you look for when you're hiring the talent and the people there? Are you looking for experienced people to come on, or do you believe in building your own team from the ground up, like the military does? So what do you think?
It
What's
does.
your strategy on people development?
So I've had a two-pronged approach to it, right? When I first got into the company, like I didn't have the experience. So I needed a lot of guys with experience in the beginning. But I've also found that there's challenges because of the tribal knowledge that they have, or they get set in their ways, and this is the only way you can do it. Um, I've taken up in the last couple of years, we do it very much like the military. If I get a guy that walks in or a girl that walks in that has no experience, the character traits I'm looking at, right? Are they respectful? Do they look me in the eye? Firm handshake, some of the stuff that I was taught when I was a kid. Those are very important to us. When you're having a conversation with somebody, can you hold a conversation? Is small talk something that can you talk about the weather? Can you talk about the community? Can you talk about some of their interests? That's important when we're looking at somebody. Obviously, the integrity and the grit and all these things, integrity is a little bit harder to tell in the first couple of
Mhm.
conversations with them, right? So
Mhm.
that's something that we get to assess during that phase in the 90 days that we have them, if that individual has that. But I would say if we just follow some of those good old fashioned characteristics that people know, the respect aspect, look me in the eyes, those are important and really tip us off on what we're looking for in an individual. I know it may seem small, but like I mentioned earlier, a third of what you do out there has to do with the technology, the HVAC. The
Mhm.
rest of it is all interacting with people. In the residential space, and that's primarily what we're in, that's super important.
Mm. That's great. What trends do you see, Troy, shaping the future of this business, that HVAC service business, and how are you preparing you and your team for those changes?
Joe, I think, well, there's so many different ways this industry is going. Obviously, we already know about AI is coming in. We use AI a lot in our business. We use we try and look into the future. I know when Smart AC came out a couple of years ago, we like to
Mhm.
try and be on the leading edge of what technology is going to look like for the homeowner in the future. I think that process, having something in the home for the customer where you don't have to go out twice a year, let's say, right? When you can kind of monitor the system, Train Technologies is coming out with thermostats that'll get you completely hooked up to your system. So we can sit back in the office and look at your system and go, oh, this is Joan's got a problem.
Mhm.
We'll just give her a call and make her aware, and she'll be like, oh, yeah, something seems off, right? I'm a little warmer than I have been. So we can actually focus a little bit more on the customer care aspect of that rather than, you know, our approach now is, we'll meet with the customer twice a year if they're with the loyalty program,
Mhm.
or, we have the opportunity if they call to come out there. But in order to run an efficient company, I think the technology that's coming out here in the future is going to be exceptional. I also think on the training side, there's been huge leaps in the training. Now, Joe, forgive me, I don't know how long you've been in the industry or even around it, but in the early days, and you can hear this from some of the older gentlemen and ladies that have been around, when you started in the industry with no knowledge, what did you do? You carried a tool for the guy that was actually doing the work.
Mhm.
And that could
Mhm.
have been years, right? You could have done that for years. And that's how you learned your skill. You were an apprentice for a couple of years. We as business owners and companies nowadays, we don't have that luxury, right?
Mhm.
But we're fortunate because there's so many resources out there nowadays between YouTube and podcasts, online training. We use Skillcat quite a bit. And I know Craig, oh, geez, I'm going to mess up his last name, but Craig Massioni. Anyway,
Mhm.
out of
Mhm.
New
Mhm.
Jersey, right?
I got
He
you. Yeah.
does a fantastic job of presenting material where it's digestible for these young folks or even more advanced. So we're using that. We're trying to utilize all those resources. And then we have our own internal process for training the gentleman. So if I get a guy that comes in and's got 5 years experience, I'm obviously not starting him at the bottom. We'll
Right.
meet him where he's at and make sure that he has the requisite skills to go ahead and be effective out in the field. But I would say, and you had mentioned this earlier, with some of those older gentlemen, they go in, fix a problem, and leave. Well, we want to make sure that we're serving the customer in a little bit better way.
Mm.
So
So
that's where I see some of the future going
yeah,
for
I
this
see. I
industry.
see that. I see that. And so, if you were giving someone like your younger self starting out in the service industry today, what advice would you give somebody who is in the position where they are starting a business like yours? What kind of advice would you give them?
So if I was a young man going into the trades, what I would say is dig in, right? There's no better opportunity out there. And I've seen them, Joe, right? I've been in the military. I've been on what people would call the white collar side, right? This industry, the home services, the skilled trades in any capacity, right? Electrical, plumbing, it could be roofing. You're in such a great spot to be successful, right? Learn all you possibly can. Most of the kids like to learn online now. They can do it through YouTube. They can listen to podcasts. Just really get passionate about the industry that you're in and be exceptional. I see all kinds of HVAC influencers out there, kids, young kids that are just excited about it, which is hard not to get me excited about it when I see them. I'm like, look at the craftsmanship that they're putting into it.
Hmm.
Now, looking at HVAC specifically, it's almost like, we're hiding these units in an attic, in a closet, in a basement, right? So you see a lot, especially down here in Florida. There's a lot of stuff that seems to be thrown in. But we try and bring that craftsmanship back to the trade and getting to express that with the younger folks that are in the industry, both men and women. Like, this is an important trade. This is, a necessary skill, and people are looking for it. So you can have a great career.
Well, Troy, where can the listeners of around the country who are contractors or local uh, people who have homeowners and residential homeowners or small businesses connect with you or learn more about working or partnering with you?
Joe, you know what? I'm everywhere. All right. So on LinkedIn, I think you and I connected there on LinkedIn originally. I'm
Mhm.
on Facebook, either through Troy Daland or Air Zero. We're on Instagram as Air Zero. I also have one for Instagram, but you'll never see me post anything in there. I don't like I don't, I don't like to do that. But you can
Man,
basically find us anywhere. If you want to go ahead and email me, just reach out to troy@airzero.com. And those are some great ways to connect.
and if you're a homeowner in the Tampa Bay area, you can just go to arrowzero.com and you get one of the finest, most transparent service businesses in that area. Troy, this is another great conversation we've had with you. I want to remember this is Troy Daland from airzero.com. We really appreciate you on the show, Troy.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
All right. Those of you who are listening right now, thank you for sticking with us until the end. If you gained value from today's episode, we'd love for you to leave a rating or a review wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you know someone in the service industry or anyone looking to scale their career or business, send this episode their way. Take one key insight from today and put it into action and let us know how it goes. We'd love to hear about your progress. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again on the next episode of the Home Service Heartbeat Podcast.